Corilan sensed more than saw the sphere glowing beside her on the desk, and absently waved her hand over it while continuing to read a message. It was an invite to an unscheduled board meeting. Something most unusual. She couldn't remember the last time she'd received such a notice. In her peripheral vision, she recognized the image forming in the sphere next to her. "Hey, Swain. I assume this call has something to do with this board meeting?" she asked, her eyes still focused on the message on the screen. Swain's image hovered closer to her. "Yes, I called to confirm your attendance. We've got serious concerns to address, and I need to ensure that all our charter members are present. That doesn't end," he interrupted, "our legacy Earth consultant." She smiled and shrugged. "Okay, I'll be there. But what's so important it requires an emergency board meeting?" "I'd rather not discuss it here. Best to leave it for the meeting. Just make sure you're there." "Yes, I'll be there. I'll leave in a few minutes." She closed the call. No need to give Swain a hard time. But it was unusual. They hadn't had an emergency meeting since they'd left the passage 75 years ago. She basked in how great living on organic Earth was, and how wonderful her life had turned out, being bonded to Earthos and having a family against the odds. This was paradise. The caretakers of Earth and the School of Ancestral Guidance organization, along with all the people who'd committed to being Earth Guardians and becoming allegiance, had followed them to the ephemeral passage. It was incredible. After the Luminians had renewed Earth, all the passage's inhabitants had exited to a natural, organic Earth. Everything had been sublime. So what could be so wrong in paradise? Shaking her head, she got up from the processor and went to her room to get her wind blocker. As she made her way to the front door, she stopped in the great room where her children were busy with their varied interests. She observed them momentarily. Raycon, the eldest at 18, and as much the image of his father as possible, while still being human, was splayed over a chair with earps in his ears, listening to music and reading digital media. Soma was weaving a basket, her favorite pastime. The twins, Mesa and Nijix, were playing a board game they'd recently invented. Her oldest daughter wasn't there. "Where's Kalira?" Without waiting for an answer, she turned and went to the girl's room and peeped in. Kalira was sitting on her bed, brushing her hair. Her expression seemed downcast. "Everything okay?" Instantly, Kalira looked up. "Yes, I'm fine, just thinking about school." "Come to the great room for a second," she said, and went back to the others, Kalira following. "Listen up, everyone." They all looked at her, and Raycon pulled out an earp from his ear. "I'm going to a special board meeting now. I hope it won't last too long, but if it does, don't worry. Raycon is in charge, and no sass while I'm gone." Raycon nodded in okay, and they all went back to what they were doing. Kalira returned to her room. "Raycon, keep a watchful eye." A slight frown crossed his face and receded. "Will do. See you later, Mom." He returned to his listening and reading. Corilan went outside and lifted off in the evening light. Her ability to fly had resulted from her infusion with Earthos. Whether any of her abilities would be permanent was unknown, yet she was happy she was, so far, able to fly. Still pondering the reason for a special board meeting, she wondered if her dad, Nolan, knew what was going on. She assumed he didn't, since he hadn't mentioned anything amiss. He was the chief for Troxler Province, among other responsibilities he'd willingly taken on now that the initial world building was done. He wasn't a board member, but whenever a crisis occurred in the organization, he ended up being involved in the solution. She wondered how long it would be before he and his Earth First League members would be called upon again. Gliding over Sag Province, she found a spot near the administration building and descended. Her respect for Sag's existence of nearly 3 centuries made her happy to be one of its members. The fact that they committed themselves to serving as guardians of the earth to facilitate living healthy lives kept her humble in purpose.